Several of the city's busiest streetcar routes are being diverted tonight after a streetcar derailed on King Street. We'll get a live update on that situation in moments.
For sure. Okay, let's go to Vaughan. A community is mourning after a 6-year-old boy was struck and killed by a school bus in Kleinburg.
And the University of Toronto says it's waiting for a response from organizers on its counter-proposal to bring a pro-Palestinian encampment on campus to an end.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Phil Perkins.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us. It has been a chaotic day for many commuters who rely on the busiest streetcar routes. The TTC says a derailment at King and Church affected services along the 504 corridor.
Yeah, for more on this, let's go live to CP24's Lindsay Biscaya. Lindsay, just another day, another headache for commuters, just trying to do something simple like, go home.
Yeah, you would never think that would be so difficult to do, Phil and Lena, but it turns out it is actually at this point in this city. So this is the situation right now. This streetcar derailed earlier today at King and Church, right at the intersection, which is where we are now, and crews are still working to get it back up and running. I'll get Simon to zoom in once again to the top of the streetcar because we keep seeing a derailment, but it's a little more complicated than that. That thing at the top, all those cables, is actually called a pantograph. So that's where the streetcar really connects to the cables. And today the TTC says as this streetcar was turning, it wound up all tangled in the cables that pantograph did right above the intersection. And that's when the streetcar actually derailed. It's not the operator's fault. Apparently the streetcar was going slowly at the speed it should be, but the TTC believes it might be an issue with the switcher. And that is when that streetcar derailed after being tangled in those cables. So the pantograph now not connected to the cables, the streetcar obviously not connected, so that once they do get it back on the track, they can move it. But at this point, we're still waiting for that to happen. And obviously, it seems to be tricky business trying to get the car back onto the track, and then they'll have to get another car in to tow it back to the station for repairs. So this is obviously affecting commuters quite a bit today. We've been talking with some people who were walking down here planning on using this streetcar, and here's what they've been saying to us.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. I guess it is happening more often now.
Well, not much you can do about it. It's disconcerting considering the money that is spent on the car tracks and the overheads and all that.
Important to note, no one was injured today in this derailment, Lena and Phil, and police have the intersections around this intersection blocked off, so no traffic is coming down here so that crews can work. There's about more than a dozen workers right now, TTC workers here, trying to get this car up onto the track, so probably not much longer at this point. Obviously a headache for people in this heat who now have to walk to where they want to go or maybe pay for an Uber or try something else. But at this point, there are some delays on the 504 and the 501 lines, and then for the 503 line, there's actually shuttle buses running instead, so people can try to get around tonight. Lena, Phil, back to you.
Not what you want to be dealing with when a heat alert is in place.
Absolutely not. Shuttle buses in this heat? No, thank you. All right, Lindsay Biscaya, thanks so much. Well, it wasn't just tough getting home. It was tough to get to work for a lot of people. Tough morning on the westbound 401 following a fiery crash.
This is what it looked like from traffic cameras after a transport truck crashed in the express lanes just past the DVP. It happened around 3 a.m. It closed down the express lanes from the DVP to Leslie, leaving vehicles backed up all the way through Scarborough during the morning rush hour. The driver able to walk away with only minor injuries. Now, it's not clear yet what led to this crash.
All right, let's check in with your commute right now, maybe on highways. I know Adjo and Sia, but also talking about the streetcar issues as well. So, let's get the rundown here. How are people getting home?
Yeah, I don't know how they're getting home. If you're in a car, you're sitting there. If you're on a streetcar, you're not moving. But what I can tell you is problems persist from the early morning. You gave it a mention about the serious problems that were happening on the westbound 401. Transfer lanes still not accessible following that fiery crash from this morning. All the vehicles are off the highway, but the transfers are closed. For some reason, MTO keeps moving the cameras. Transfers are off limits, and if you're in the collectors, the left lane is blocked, and in the express just outside of camera view, the right lane is blocked. So if you're headed that way, not moving from McCowan, still no estimated time of reopening. We are dealing with a collision impacting the drive on the DVP South, just south of York Mills. It does have the left lane and the bus lane blocked, and even more problems on the 427 North. This is right at the 409 multi-vehicle collision. It does have the center lane blocked. I'll send it back to you. Not the best afternoon, guys.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
A woman is identifying her husband as the man who carried out a deadly shooting at a North York business Monday afternoon. Yeah, Lisa Pogorelowski says that her husband, Alan Katz, believed that the two victims were behind a mortgage investment scheme that defrauded their family. 54-year-old Arash Misagi and 44-year-old Samira Yousefi were killed, and Katz also died in Monday's shooting. Court records show that Pogorelowski and Katz had previously sued the victims after losing $1.28 million in an alleged syndicated mortgage fraud. Pogorelowski says her husband couldn't handle losing his life savings.
He just couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, he couldn't exercise, couldn't talk. He was sitting in the office saying that he has fog in his brain and he cannot think straight, he cannot continue working, running our business. He just was hugging me, holding my hands all the time. We stay home all the time. He just, like, my life just was falling apart.
Misagi, one of the two victims in Monday's shooting, faced charges in 2018 for his alleged role in a complex mortgage fraud scheme valued at $17 million, an investigation police dubbed as Project Bridle Path.
And two men are facing charges in a shooting that left a woman dead outside Vaughan Mills shopping center yesterday.
For the latest on this investigation, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, this is considered to be targeted, not random.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a huge difference when it comes to public safety. They're both equally as devastating, but it is the random acts that seem to affect the community's quality of life. So police have said that the 21-year-old Hamilton woman exited the mall about 5:30 yesterday evening, the mall up here in Vaughan, and when she approached her car, she was approached by two suspects. She was shot, and as she fell to the ground, they took her car and they fled. Last night, we hear that Peel Regional Police, with the assistance of York Regional Police, arrested two suspects. They charged the one person with first-degree murder, planning and deliberation, there's your targeted shooting, and the other with accessory after the fact, which means that police believe that the second person helped the first person escape after committing a criminal offense. So they have said that they do believe that the victim knew at least one of the two suspects, and this was a targeted shooting, and that there was no threat to public safety. Very important piece of information here, because again, random acts of violence tend to paralyze communities more than targeted ones do, both equally as bad. We did hear from York Regional Police earlier on as well, and here's what they said about this occurrence. Let's listen.
The relationship between the two accused and the victim are not known at this time, but we do believe that they are known to each other. We do believe that this incident is targeted and there's no threat to public safety. There are no outstanding suspects or vehicles. We do encourage those who may have dashcam footage from the parking lot of Vaughan Mills and anyone who may have seen anything to please reach out to our homicide unit.
Statistically speaking, a woman, if murdered, is often murdered by a past or present intimate partner, by a man who she trusted, knew, or loved. And the fact that the police have not charged these two people with carjacking certainly suggests that there was some sort of relationship between the victim and one of those two suspects, and that the car may have some answers as to what that connection might be. I'll send it back to the desk.
All right, Steve Ryan, a crime analyst, thank you very much for your analysis, as always. Well, one person is in custody following an alleged assault downtown this afternoon.
Chopper 24 over the scene at Bathurst and Dundas, where the incident happened around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Police say the victim made their way to hospital, but the extent of their injuries was not disclosed. The suspect was arrested on scene. Police say the investigation continues.
And a hate crime investigation has been opened into a van displaying Islamophobic messages downtown. Now, the van displayed images of Muslims taking part in prayers at Nathan Phillips Square while posing questions like, is this Syria or is this Iraq? It then goes on to say that Canada needs to wake up because it is under siege. Toronto police say it recognizes the concerns raised and its hate crime unit is trying to determine who's responsible.
509, 34 degrees. This is Live at 5. We'll go live to Kleinburg next, where a community is mourning a 6-year-old boy who was struck and killed by a school bus today. Welcome back. A 6-year-old boy is dead after being struck by a school bus in Kleinburg today. Just heartbreaking.
Now let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who is in the Kipling Avenue and Teston Road area. You spoke with some people, getting some more information, some details of when this first happened, and it is more tragic than I could have imagined.
It's absolutely horrific, Phil and Lena. I was just speaking to a father who's got 2 young daughters. He tells me this 6-year-old boy was in the grade 1 class with one of his daughters. He was supposed to go to his daughter's birthday party next week. Tragically, that's not going to happen because of just this horrific situation that unfolded here this morning. A small memorial now being placed here by some neighbors. This is at Kleinburg Summit Way and Pierre Burton Boulevard, where this tragedy happened around 8 o'clock this morning when a neighbor tells CP24 this little boy was trying to run after the bus when he was struck and killed. Here's what we heard from York Regional Police this morning.
We are working hard right now with our partners to continue the investigation. We have victim services and peer support that are available for officers, parents, teachers, children that may be affected by this. We don't have a lot of information right now. Our officers are currently working diligently to make sure that we are addressing everything here.
York Regional Police have now wrapped up their investigation here at the scene. We watched just within the half hour, Lena and Phil, as the school bus involved was towed away from the scene. The bus driver actually stopped about 100 meters after the point of impact with this young child. A neighbor sharing some video surveillance footage with our colleagues over at CTV News. The video, I'm told, shows the bus driver getting off the bus, neighbors along with the bus driver and several kids that were on board the school bus screaming, presumably running towards this little boy. We're hearing as well that the bus driver tried to save his life, tried to perform CPR. The bus driver, according to police, is cooperating with investigators as just shockwaves ripple through this community, trying to get an understanding as to how something so horrific could have happened. Here's what some of these neighbors tell us here today.
I used to see him going up and down with the scooter, but I didn't know him. My granddaughter's 6 years old, so it really hits home for, I'm sure, a lot of people.
I heard the school driver, when immediately happened, she was trying to do CPR on the child.
Truthfully, this Kleinburg Summit Way, cars are ripping up and down here, and they're coming pretty fast.
Some others observed York Regional Police. One officer especially moved, returning the little boy's scooter to his family here early this afternoon. So just a horrific, horrific tragedy. Lena and Phil, York Police have not said at this point if any charges have been laid, if they're even looking at laying any charges. But the bus driver, along with first responders at the scene, people who knew this little boy, went to school with him, they're all getting supports right now because of just this awful situation that transpired here this morning. Back to you.
So hard to wrap your head around something so senseless. Beatrice Vaisman reporting live tonight. Thank you, Beatrice.
Well, police have located a vehicle wanted in a fatal hit and run on Roncesvalles earlier this month.
Yeah, 48-year-old Stuart Costigan was struck and killed just after 5 a.m. on June 6th. Investigators say the suspect vehicle, a dark-colored Volkswagen GTI, left the scene and headed westbound on Howard Park. Today, we are learning that they have found that car, but the search for a suspect continues.
The Toronto Police Service and Mr. Costigan's family are seeking help from the public in positively identifying the suspect driving the vehicle that struck and killed him on June 6th. From our investigation, we are aware that there were several vehicles that traveled through the area of the collision prior to the arrival of emergency services, as well as individuals that were in the area prior to the collision that may have interacted with Mr. Costigan. We are urging these individuals to come forward and speak with police as they may have crucial information that could help us with the investigation.
Police are asking any businesses or residents in the area of Roncesvalles and Dundas who may have video from that morning to contact them.
5:15, 34 degrees. This is Live at 5. Coming up, WestJet has started canceling flights ahead of a possible strike tomorrow by its mechanics. We'll tell you everything you need to know if you're planning on leaving town.
Welcome back. The organizers of the pro-Palestinian encampment at U of T addressing reporters. Let's go to it live.
This encampment and its participants. Finally, U of T's lawyers continuously bring up the university's commitment to neutrality. I want to make it very clear. Divestment is neutrality. Neutrality is the bare minimum. Right now, UFT has not taken a neutral stance. They are actively investing in weapons manufacturing companies that serve the interests of only the Israeli state. Investments that contribute to the ongoing genocide and the violence against Palestinians. UFT, you have Palestinian students, staff, and faculty at this campus. They have lost hundreds upon hundreds of family members. To expect them to be okay with their tuition money going toward these weapons manufacturing companies is ludicrous.
Hello, my name is Dania Majid, D-A-N-I-A-M-A-J-I-D. I'm with the Arab Canadian Lawyers Association. We are one of the interveners in this case, and I'm also an alum at the University of Toronto. So the starting point of any discussion of what's happening at the University of Toronto is the catastrophic genocide that it continues in Gaza and the escalating state-backed violence in the West Bank. And it is these conditions that our very diverse group of students at the University of Toronto and across Canadian campuses are challenging when they set up encampments to hold their universities to account for their possible complicity in Israeli human rights abuses against Palestinians. I'm going to focus my talk, or my words, on anti-Palestinian racism. Just even on the way here, walking from the courtroom to this press conference, myself and a colleague were harassed by a member of the profession, fully gowned, who made anti-Palestinian racist remarks about myself wearing the keffiyeh and anti-Semitic remarks against my colleague. And that was just the walk from the courtroom down here. Imagine what the university students are experiencing day in and day out when they are constantly being attacked by members coming of the community, outside of the community, coming in and attacking them. And that's not something that the University of Toronto has at all addressed in their materials or has expressed any concern about their safety. The University of Toronto has had a long-standing anti-Palestinian racism problem, and it predates the encampment. Anti-Palestinian racism is a distinct form of racism that silences, excludes, erases, stereotypes, defames, or dehumanizes Palestinians and their allies. It can take many forms, and it commonly includes denying the Nakba or Palestinian ties to the land, or the...
All right, we are hearing from organizers of a pro-Palestinian encampment at the U of T, speaking with reporters this hour. This is the injunction hearing continues that could see those behind this pro-Palestinian encampment at the U of T's campus be evicted. The school says protesters presented a new offer, then it presented a counter offer, and it has yet to hear from these student organizers. Organizers also say they're still looking for the school to divest from companies that it says have ties to Israel. We'll keep a close eye on what's happening there.
Yeah, no doubt. Also keeping a very close eye on this. WestJet has started canceling flights ahead of a possible strike by its mechanics. Workers could walk off the job tomorrow night after serving the airline with a 72-hour strike notice on Monday. Members of the Aircraft Mechanics Fraternal Association, which represents 670 aircraft maintenance engineers and skilled trade positions, voted overwhelmingly to reject a tentative agreement last week. WestJet says it's canceling 18 flights today, 13 tomorrow, and that includes 10 flights from and to Pearson Airport.
We know the situation is creating stress and uncertainty for anyone with upcoming travel plans. To our guests, the communities and businesses that rely on our service, we're truly sorry. As a result of the strike notice served by the union, which would take effect as early as Thursday, June 20 at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, these cancellations are the only path forward. This approach will ensure we can proactively manage disruptions and reaccommodation options while continuing to provide our guests with as much notice as possible.
So the strike vote was actually in response to WestJet deciding that they didn't want to negotiate anymore and wanted to go to the Industrial Relations Board to force arbitration on us. We responded with a strike vote. It was kind of the only choice we had. We wanted to go back to the table, but WestJet said no. I think guys are finally standing up, and we're standing up together, which is something historically we haven't done. So everybody's together on this. There's a lot of solidarity, and it's not just at WestJet. Aircraft maintenance engineers across the country are standing with us. We even have pilots in our picket, so it's been great.
Well, the airline says that the cancellations will impact more than 6,500 travelers. WestJet is also advising people to check the status of their flights before heading on the road to the airport.
It's 5:23, 34 degrees. You're watching Live at 5. A heat warning still in effect for the GTA. Much of southern Ontario. We'll tell you when some relief is on the way. That's coming up next.
All right, welcome back. You've probably been outside.
Yeah,
it's a rough day.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Toronto feeling very much like a steam room for yet another day, 3 straight, with a heat warning still in effect for the entire city.
I think we should mention, some people love this heat.
I love it in doses.
It's a bit much for me, I will say.
Yeah.
This prolonged heat wave, it's expected to last through Friday at least, with daytime highs forecast about 30 degrees and the humidity making it feel so much hotter. I mean, we're sitting at 34 right now, but it's feeling more like 42. Environment Canada out with a reminder that this weather can be dangerous for the vulnerable. So if you are out and about, it's important to stay hydrated. Just don't overwork yourself and seek out shade whenever and wherever you can. Environment Canada senior climatologist Dave Phillips says even after this heat wave peaks, the temperatures are still going to be tough to cope with.
When it's all over, come, I think, Saturday, temperatures are still going to be 3 degrees warmer than normal. Yes, they'll be below 30, but what's the difference between 30 and 28? It'll still be humid and it'll be warm nights. So this is a huge, long episode. And what we know about these heat waves, these heat bouts, these heat spells, is that usually at the end of the heat wave is when people really feel it because their body's worn down.
And the hot weather means electricity use is up across the province as people try to stay cool. Ontario's independent electricity system operator, which manages the electricity grid in Ontario, said megawatt usage is hitting peak levels. The IESO says its current electricity supply is adequate to meet demands, but encourages people to reduce their usage, especially during peak times.
And a street near Woodbine Beach has a new name.
A First Nation drumming ceremony preceded the unveiling of Mdabamog Avenue, formerly Lower Coxwell. The renaming is part of the city's commitment to honor Indigenous languages and placekeeping.
The name points to the history of this land. It highlights Anishinaabe culture and tradition. It's a reminder for anyone who travels on this road that Indigenous people lived on these lands for thousands of years before us.
Mdabamog Avenue runs from Queen Street east to Lakeshore Boulevard east.
It's 5:28 now, 34 degrees. This is Live at 5. Several of the city's busiest streetcar routes, they're being diverted tonight after a streetcar derailed on King Street. We'll get a live update on that situation on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Well, several of the city's busiest streetcar routes are being diverted because of this. A streetcar derailed on King Street. We'll get a live update from the scene in moments.
A community is mourning after a 6-year-old boy was struck and killed by a school bus in Kleinburg. We'll take you live to that scene coming up tonight.
And the University of Toronto says it's waiting for a response from organizers on its counter-proposal to bring a pro-Palestinian encampment on campus to an end.
This is Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Ladefat.
And I'm Phil Perkins. Our top story. A woman is identifying her husband as the man who carried out a deadly shooting at a North York business Monday afternoon.
Lisa Pogorelowski says her husband, Alan Katz, believed the two victims were behind a mortgage investment scheme that defrauded their family. 54-year-old Arash Misagi and 44-year-old Samira Yousufi were killed. Katz also died in Monday's shooting. Court records show that Pogorelowski and Katz had previously sued the victims after losing $1.28 million in an alleged syndicated mortgage fraud. Pogorelowski says her husband could not handle losing his life savings.
Do you have a wife? Yeah. Can you imagine for a second she's not walking to your door, doesn't hug you anymore, doesn't sleep with you anymore, doesn't support you anymore, doesn't hold your hand anymore? doesn't bring your child to sleep, how do you feel? Like, he's not here. He's not gonna come back home. Never.
Misagi, one of the two victims in Monday's shooting, faced charges in 2018 for his alleged role in a complex mortgage fraud scheme, as we noted, valued at $17 million, an investigation police dubbed as Project Bridle Path.
Well, two men are facing charges in a shooting that left a Hamilton woman dead outside Vaughan Mills shopping mall yesterday. Now for the latest, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan.
Yeah, Phil and Lena, the latest homicide up here in York Region, double homicide, occurred in the south parking lot of Vaughan Mills Shopping Center. York Regional Police tell us that it happened at 5:30 last night. 21-year-old woman from Hamilton exited the mall, and as she walked towards her car, she was confronted by two suspects, both men. They shot her. She fell to the ground, and she subsequently died as a result of her injuries, and they took her car. They stole her car. Later last night, late in the night, Peel Regional Police out in Brampton, along with York Regional Police, arrested two suspects. They charged the one guy with first-degree murder. There's planning and deliberation. That is the evidence where the police believe that she was targeted and this wasn't a random killing. And the other person was charged with accessory after the fact, meaning that the person, police believe, helped the suspect get away after committing a criminal offense. There's no carjacking charge laid. That's interesting, but can be very telling as well. I'll get to that in a sec. So they do say that the suspect and one of the suspects and the woman were known to one another. They say this was a targeted shooting and that there is no threat to public safety. We did hear from York Regional Police earlier on as well, and here's what they told us. Let's listen.
The relationship between the two accused and the victim are not known at this time, but we do believe that they are known to each other. We do believe that this incident is targeted and there's no threat to public safety. There are no outstanding suspects or vehicles. We do encourage those who may have dashcam footage from the parking lot of Vaughan Mills and anyone who may have seen anything to please reach out to our homicide unit.
So a carjacking, by definition, is a theft of a vehicle with violence. This certainly would fit that definition, but given the fact that this person was charged with first-degree murder and no carjacking charges, that could suggest that that vehicle that was taken from this area is a connection between one of the suspects and the victim, and that is why no carjacking charges were laid. Back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live. Thanks so much, Steve. Well, it's been a chaotic day for many commuters who rely on the busiest streetcar routes.
Yeah, this one right in the heart of downtown. TTC says a derailment at King and Church affected services along the 504 corridor.
For more on this, let's go live to CP24's Lindsay Biscaya. Not what you want to be dealing with when it feels like 42 outside, right?
Well, that's the thing, Lena and Phil. I mean, this is not ideal any day, but on a week like this where we're experiencing dangerous heat in the GTA with that heat dome still pressing over us, this is really not the time when you want to notice that your streetcar isn't working and that you now have to walk to wherever you want to go. That's been the situation for a lot of people here today, though. As you can probably see behind me, this streetcar still is derailed. Crews working hard, though, to get it back onto the track. So we know this happened earlier today. The TTC says that the streetcar was turning slowly from King onto Church Street, and that's when it got tangled in some wires and then derailed. They say this is not due to the heat, and it's not due to the operator driving too fast. They think might be a switcher problem, but either way, that streetcar has been derailed for some time now, and crews are working to get it back on the tracks. Once it's back on, they've already disconnected it from the power. They will tow it away with another car back to the station for maintenance. But as I mentioned, this is affecting a lot of people, and we've been asking people who were walking by here hoping to maybe take this streetcar, how this is affecting them, how they feel. Here's a listen.
This is a regular thing with the TTC, right?
I'm not surprised. I really don't know what happened here, but it looks familiar at the same time.
I laughed. I mean, there's nothing you can do when you work downtown.
Maybe 20 minutes. Not the best, but
What's it like in this heat?
Not wonderful. Not wonderful, but you know what? It is what it is. Things happen.
I got to find a different route. Right?
What's it like in this heat?
It's not healthy.
Another woman who did not want to appear on camera came over and told me that she wanted to point out as well how important this is for people like her who are facing disabilities when it comes to accessibility. When you can't take the streetcar, what do you do instead? So a lot of good points here from people who have been passing by, wondering what's going on. As for the progress, it looks, I'm no expert on TTC streetcars, and the crews here wouldn't tell us much, but it looks as though they are slowly starting to wrap up. We've seen them putting some chains away, putting some other equipment away. There's probably more than a dozen TTC workers here trying to get this streetcar back on the tracks and away. So hopefully that will happen soon. Important to note as well, before I send it back to you, Lena and Phil, no injuries reported in this derailment, and roads around the intersection here at King and Church are closed, and police are diverting traffic away from here so that crews can work as fast as possible to get this up and running. Back to you for now.
Ooh. Yeah, imagine working as quickly as possible. Pressure's on, rush hour, in this heat. I can only imagine what these workers are going through right now. They're going to need to jump in the lake after. Thanks so much, Lindsay. I appreciate that. Well, it was a tough commute on the westbound 401 following a fiery crash. Adjo, and how's that ending up now?
It's still very slow, and you're talking about slow progress. That's what's happening on the westbound 401. At least the express and collectors, for the most part, have been reopened, but unfortunately, that little snag in the system is the transfer lanes. They keep moving the camera. I was told by MTO the reason why they keep flipping back is because the left lane that is blocked in the collectors, they don't want any vehicles hitting the MTO crew that is blocking the left lane in the collectors because they've been there for a very long time. But the transfer lanes are still closed, and as you do make your way just past here on the westbound side of the 401, the right lane also blocked in the express, still not giving me an estimated time of reopening. On to the 401 eastbound, problems as well. These are brand new in the express through Kiel. It is the center lane blocked with the collision involving two transport trucks. Major problems on the southbound lanes of the 404 through Steeles. It is the three right lanes blocked following a collision, and even more issues. This is on the northbound lanes of the 400. Now the two left lanes blocked on the approach to Highway 7, so that's just adding to a very, very slow afternoon. I'll send it back to you guys.
Adjo, thanks so much. As Phil, you were talking about a really tough morning on the westbound 401 following that fiery crash. Adjo touched on it too. This is what it looked like moments after it happened. A transport truck crashing into the express lanes just past the DVP happened around 3 a.m. Closed down the express lanes from the DVP to Leslie, leaving vehicles backed up all the way through Scarborough during the morning rush hour. The driver able to walk away with minor injuries. It's not clear yet what led to that crash.
It's 5:39, now 5:40, feeling like 42. You're watching Live at 5. We'll go live to Kleinburg next, where a community still mourning after a 6-year-old boy who was struck and killed by a school bus trying to catch up with it. You see the memorial building there. Beatrice Vaisman's live. We'll speak to her soon. Well, a 6-year-old boy is dead after being struck by a school bus today in Kleinburg.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who's in the Kipling Avenue and Teston Road area with the latest. You're learning a little bit more about this boy tonight, Beatrice.
Lena, friends and neighbors here along Kleinburg Summit Way tell CP24 that the 6-year-old boy's name is Mateo. I spoke with a father of two young daughters. He tells me Mateo was in grade 1, the same classroom as his daughter, and he is just beside himself. This neighborhood is in absolute shock about what happened here this morning. Here's the memorial right here at the corner of the intersection Kleinburg Summit Way and Pierre Burton Boulevard, where this tragedy happened just around 8 o'clock this morning. We're hearing that Mateo was running after the school bus, trying to catch up to it, when tragically he was struck. We heard from York Regional Police here this morning. They were talking about how the family is doing. Obviously, it goes without saying, for this family, for Mateo's family, this is the worst day of their life. Just an unimaginable, horrific situation. Here's more from York Police.
We are working hard right now with our partners to continue the investigation. We have victim services and peer support that are available for officers, parents, teachers, children that may be affected by this. We don't have a lot of information right now. Our officers are currently working diligently to make sure that we are addressing everything here.
What we're hearing from people who were here in the area when this tragedy happened, Lena and Phil, is that Mateo was running after the bus. He was hit by the bus driver, and there were kids on board the bus as well. This was supposed to be a run-of-the-mill pickup to go to school. The bus driver stopped about 100 meters after the point of impact, at first seemingly not realizing that someone had been struck. Video surveillance that was shared by our colleagues over at CTV, I'm told, shows the bus driver getting off the bus. She, along with neighbors and several of the older kids on board the bus, start running towards the little boy. We are also hearing that the bus driver tried to save the little boy's life, trying to perform CPR. Tragically, he was pronounced dead. Neighbors are shocked by what has happened. They are grieving right along with this family, who I should add is getting a lot of support from friends and family this hour. I'm watching people come and go from the family home, just almost inconsolable after what has happened here. Here's what some of the neighbors that we've been talking to here in Kleinburg tell us.
This is very sad for me. It is heartbroken. I've been living in this area for the past, going to 6 years, 5 years close. We have never experienced this kind of thing before. So this is heartbroken. I am a parent as well. And to see that a little child, 6 years, just die suddenly is very sad. It's heartbroken for me.
Just felt sorry for the family.
This should never happen.
No.
Never should.
New York police have concluded their investigation here at the scene. The bus was towed by investigators around 4:30 this afternoon. Police have not said exactly what contributed to this crash. They have not said if any charges have been laid or if they intend to lay any charges. They do say the school bus driver is cooperating with investigators and that supports are going to be available, and not only for the bus driver, for Mateo's family, but for the first responders who came here as well and did everything they could to save Mateo's life. Lena and Phil.
Now, unfortunately, first responders see that a little too often. So, yeah, definitely get the support for them as well. 20 people are facing nearly 300 charges as part of an investigation that targeted a street gang in York Region.
18 guns were recovered as part of the 14-month-long operation dubbed Project Lookout. Investigators with York Regional Police and other agencies also recovered more than $2 million worth of drugs, as well as $245,000 in cash, luxury vehicles, and high-end watches. The probe was launched last April and focused on a group known as the Vaughan Gang that's accused of being involved in firearms and narcotics trafficking.
By collaborating across jurisdictional lines, collectively we are making an impact on gun and illegal drug trafficking across our regions and the province. In this case, the street gang was operating right here in York Region.
Toronto Police, Peel Police, the OPP, and the CBSA were all involved in the operation too.
It is 5:47, feeling like 42. You're watching live at 5. A hearing is underway into application for an injunction against the pro-Palestinian encampment at U of T. We'll get a live update from the scene. Welcome back. An injunction is being heard to potentially bring an end to the encampment at U of T's King's College Circle.
CP24's Sija Liu joins us live from the courthouse with the very latest. We're hearing from these protesters. We're also hearing from the University of Toronto today, Sija.
Yes, it's 2 days in court, Lena. Today was the University of Toronto's turn to say why this injunction needs to end. But a couple moments ago, we also heard from protesters responding to some of the arguments made in court. So today we heard from U of T lawyers on why they say this encampment has caused so-called irreparable harm to the institution. The lawyers today argue that the protesters have set up a fence along King's College and they are blocking the space from people. They are preventing others from using it. Also, they have cited that alumni, lecturers, and students have all expressed that they have felt unsafe on campus. This includes alumni who have rescinded scholarships, lecturers who have decided to participate virtually because they do not want to come on campus due to safety. Now, on the other side, encampment organizers say this is not the case and that these allegations are unsubstantiated and not true. They say their protest has been peaceful and diverse. They are also concerned, saying the university in the future wants all protests to have authorization first. They are not happy with this. Take a listen on what they had to say a few minutes ago.
After today's hearing, the university's goals are very clear as well.
The university made clear it is in court today to quash students' rights to protest, and specifically to try to stop the growing movement for Palestine on campus. It is the university's order that it seeks from court that makes this clear. They are not only asking this court to clear front campus or clear the encampment. They are also asking for an order that would require these students who are part of this Palestine movement to indefinitely moving forward have to request permission to protest on campus.
As for negotiations, we heard from U of T a couple hours ago saying they have submitted a counter offer. We have not heard anything back yet. As for court tomorrow, it will be the protesters, the encampment organizers, their turn to speak in court, and they want to talk about why their protest has been peaceful and why they should stay. Lena, Phil, send him back to you.
All right, CJ Lou outside the University Courthouse. Thanks so much. It is at 5:52, feeling like 42. You're watching Live at 5. Coming up, advocates are calling the city to implement a maximum temperature bylaw. Do you blame them? Look at it outside. Welcome back. As much as the province continues to endure this sweltering heat and humidity, a coalition of tenant, health and environmental groups is calling for more to be done to protect the tenants, and that includes a maximum temperature bylaw.
And for more on what that could look like, we're joined live tonight by the leader of Scarborough Acorn, Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, Khadija Al-Magdassi. Thank you for joining us. So you're urging the City of Toronto to implement this bylaw to cap temperatures in rental units at 26 degrees. Tell me more about that proposal and tell me what motivated you to call for this.
Well, I am a tenant myself. I am a tenant, and because the summer temperatures are not regulated, landlords take advantage of this and slap tenants with invoices. Like I got an invoice for May of $550 in case I'm using an air conditioner. It was just issued for the month of May. So I don't think that many of us, we can afford to pay $550 over our rent to our landlords in order to cool ourselves. And today is exactly a very good day to talk about the heat, since it is 32 degrees in Scarborough and it feels like 43. So we are hoping and we are expecting the city to establish an adequate temperature bylaw by 2025 that will ensure that residential rental units in the city can be kept at a temperature of no greater than 26 degrees Celsius.
I'm just gonna step in here for a moment. Are you hearing from tenants all over the GTA who are dealing with this issue?
Yes, we are all of us dealing with this issue. And as I said, landlords take advantage of this and take advantage of tenants not knowing their rights, slapping them with extra payments over the monthly payment.
Right.
Can you wait till 2025? We understand that the report's not going to come in really till the end of the year. Can people afford to wait that long? You're saying you're getting $500 extra bill.
Yeah.
But as I see that already in May is such a high temperature, I am really afraid for the most vulnerable people, the children of low-income families, the seniors, the people that have other issues. I am really afraid that we will have loss of life this summer.
And what about those people who just can't afford to have the AC on? Are you worried about them?
Well, most definitely I worry about myself as well, because I can't afford to put in an AC and pay $550 over my regular rent.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Khadija Al-Magdassi with Acorn. Thanks so much for making the time. We really appreciate your perspective.
Also, we would like the city.
I know we do appreciate.
I'm so sorry, but we've got to run here. We've run out of time, but thank you for your time. It's 5:59, 34 degrees. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thanks for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.